How do you feel about writing? For a small percentage of you out there, you love it. For the rest of you, I bet you say things like, I hate it. It's boring. I find it overwhelming. It scares me. I don't feel like I'm good at it. Or I have no idea what to say. You're not alone. As a copywriter and content marketing coach, I have discovered that the vast majority of entrepreneurs and business owners do not enjoy writing. So many of them have developed an unfounded fear of putting down their words. So, where did this fear of writing come from? Well, it turns out there are actual medical conditions involving writing. Scriptophobia is the extreme fear of writing in public. The word scriptophobia is derived from the Latin word script, meaning writing, and phobos, which is the Greek word for fear or dread. There's also graphophobia, which is very similar to scriptophobia, but is more specific in that it's related to the extreme and often irrational fear of handwriting. So the fear of writing, usually originates from a negative experience in one's past. Apart from having actual scriptophobia, but those people, they are afraid of fear of rejection, and you could be too, even without having that. But fear of rejection, ridicule, of embarrassing themselves, fear of being criticized. Now, as a younger person, someone may have been chastised by a teacher for poor writing, or been laughed at by others, or even their handwriting made fun of. So these kinds of episodes, nowadays, if you have them carried them to adulthood, they can cause panic attacks. And the deeply conditioned response can create negative patterns, which are hard to change and overcome. So other issues like deep-rooted lack of self-esteem or the fear of persecution can cause the fear of writing. So most people, their issue's not really that serious. They don't have a medical condition. It's more of a mental block that they've created about writing. But still, these often come from real sources, from real experiences. Such as the feeling of, I don't have enough training, or I don't have skills in writing. I may have an issue with the language. I'm a fear of my writing being rejected, or someone who told you you weren't good at it, or you don't know what to say. You procrastinate, which makes it hard, or you're just not very confident with your writing. But writing is everywhere. It's an email, text, social media. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, there's pressure to be creating content, writing articles, posts on LinkedIn, video scripts, all sorts of things. It's not something you can easily get away from, nor should you. Here's what many people think of when they think about writing. They think, you have to be perfect at grammar and spelling and punctuation. You need to write a certain way. You need to be eloquent. There's all kinds of rules. And that was true for something like legal documents, but not for other things. You have to have all the answers. That's a big notion. And no, you don't. They think they have to live up to some imaginary high standard. So starting today, I want you to think about writing as a conversation. So what do you think is most important about writing? It's getting your message across. So I want you to make a change in how you think about writing. I want you to always consider it a dialogue or a conversation. So back in oldie times, when there were no phones, no internet, when writing letters was the only means of communicating with those at a distance, people had to write. They didn't have a choice, or if they didn't know how, they had to get someone to write for them. So letters back and forth, those became a dialogue. So consider the letters of two lovers that might be separated by distance. How many movies have been made about that? It's all about communicating. Or maybe you have a loved one who has had to travel far away or is in the military. It's communicating through a conversation. So when you send a text or an email, you most often address one person, right? That's a conversation. So when you're writing a speech, an article, or a post, or an email to a subscriber, or something on LinkedIn, you're speaking to one person. You want to think about that as one person. Even though you might be writing to a lot of people, I don't want you to think of this as this big, giant, faceless blob, unknown people. Visualize one person you're writing to, even if it's meant for a big audience. So picture them in your mind. Who are they? What do they look like? What's their personality like? Are they friends? Business relations? Industry colleagues? Invite them in. Ask them questions and get them thinking. Now, yes, I know, even if you're writing something that's just getting posted, you might not get an answer, but you're putting the invitation out there. And you can practice this. Sit down with a friend and talk about a topic you'd like to write on. Let the person ask questions, make it a dialogue, and record the session so you can go back and watch it. I bet there are some things you'll learn, and here are a few of them I'm betting you'll discover. One of them is that we often have the message we want to convey all ready to go, but there becomes this disconnect when we sit down at a blank page or a blank screen. All those have to do with rules, with all the preconceived notions and baggage about writing that all comes flooding back and gets in our way. So don't be afraid to use casual language. You can always clean it up later to make it more formal if the medium you're gearing this towards, necessitates that. If you can flip your mindset and make it more about the conversation, it will make writing a whole lot easier. So now you might be wondering, well, how do you do this? Well, a few ways. One way is to keep the focus on the reader. So even though you're the person writing, you always want to make sure you are keeping your intended audience in mind. If you tell a story, for example, be sure to tie it back into the topic of your post or your email or your blog article. If it helps to illustrate the point, make sure you tie it back. And keep in mind, what problems are your audience trying to solve? What's important to them outside of maybe your business or the things that you normally teach? What do they like? What do they dislike? And what are their goals? Be sure to explain why it's important for your audience to take action on something that would be beneficial for them that you're talking about in your post or your article. The best way to do this is by demonstrating the benefits of this action because it shows the what's in it for them, and that's what we all love. So benefits, those are the outcomes or the experiences of something. And they can help you accomplish something, they allow you to do something, or they might prevent you from doing something. So another way is to always be adding value. Now, what does this mean? Well, you want to be creating content for your readers that inspires, educates, or entertains them. These are ways that you can always be adding value for the reader's life. So, for example, you shouldn't be sending emails just for the sake of sending them. Always be asking yourself, how will this content benefit my reader in some way? Now, this applies to all types of writing, including sales emails. Now, when you offer a product or service, of course, you want to make sales and increase your revenue, but you're also helping your subscribers accomplish something with a paid offer, and that's adding value. So a few ways to make sure that you're adding value: address real issues with real solutions. Inspire your audience to take action on something. Show insight into a problem. Make an offer, as I said, sell them something, or create a resource list around a topic and send that out. You could write a how-to guide with action steps, or maybe you just do something that entertains them, gets them to smile. Another way is to be human. Now, one of the mistakes that people often make with their writing is, again, trying to adhere to some imaginary standard of greatness. Oh, this writing has to be perfect. We're not trying to win a Pulitzer Prize or be published in the New York Times. The goal is to write emails that your audience can relate to. One of the best ways to do this is by being human. No one expects you to be perfect all the time and to be this all-knowing guru. They want to hear about your triumphs and your mistakes. They also want to see your personality and the unique perspective you bring to the table. There are thousands of other people in the same industry as you, so set yourself apart by showing up authentically and being yourself. So remember, show your personality, share your triumphs and mistakes, and share your journey, maybe even solving a problem. Maybe you're writing about things you haven't even quite figured out yet, and maybe your audience can help you with that. Be relatable to your audience, and let go of the notion that you're required to write perfectly. So also something important to do is use your audience's language. Now, we possess so much knowledge in our areas of expertise. If you're a coach, a consultant, a practitioner of some sort, a business owner, and sometimes it's hard not to geek out and start using industry terms that only insiders understand. Or perhaps you know you have answers that can help your readers, but you aren't addressing their problems in a way that resonates with them. So you want to use the language that your audience is using. So do your research to see how your audience is expressing their problems. So something you can do is you can keep a file of things your clients and customers say to you. What questions do they ask you? A few things you can ask if you're doing some research. What do your subscribers and clients, customers, what do they say to you? What are their hopes and dreams? Ask about that or research that. What do they post about on social media in a group that you run or on LinkedIn groups you belong to? What are they talking about? What are they discussing? What's important to them? What do they complain about? What do they wish they could fix? What are their struggles? There is no one way to just suddenly get better at this and know everything. But to get better at writing, you need to sort of show up and keeping in mind, again, that it's a conversation and you can help. You can help by writing your stuff down and reaching out to somebody. And approaching the conversation from that perspective, it's going to help you conquer your fear of writing and help the words flow easier. So besides approaching this as a conversation, what else can you do? Well, here are some practical steps you can take to help with your writing. Here are 9 of them, in fact. So the first one is do what scares you. Now, your brain is wired to protect you and keep you safe, and it will do whatever it takes. And sometimes that's a little irrational. It doesn't know the difference between giving you the instincts to run away from a woolly mammoth that's chasing you and preventing you from writing because you may encounter criticism or rejection. But if you never face that fear, it's always going to control you. So think of fear as a little niggling voice inside your head that's trying to call the shots. If you let that voice have control, then you'll never learn how to grow and make change. It takes courage, but it's important to stand up to that voice and tell it, here's what I really want. And that means taking action. Even if writing scares you, you need to confront that feeling and do it anyway. Show up and tell that little niggling voice to shove it. And then start writing. It will get easier, I promise. Number 2, make writing a habit. You've probably heard the old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. The same is true with writing. You can't get better at, let's say, the violin or running a 5K or making lemon meringue pie unless you practice. So set aside time to write every day. Set yourself a goal. Maybe it's something like 250 words, or you sit down and write for 15 minutes. And right now, don't worry about the quality of the writing. Just put pen to paper or fingers to the keyboard. You need to start training your brain to make the act of writing something that needs to be, something you need to do all the time, and not just when you're in the mood or when you have a deadline for something. You want it to become, I would say, a natural part of your daily life or your work routine. And as you get more comfortable, you can expand the sessions, write for longer periods, but make the commitment to show up on a regular basis. Number 3, start with the meat and potatoes. Now, Maria von Trapp said in one of my favorite movies, The Sound of Music, start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Well, in my opinion, it's actually not. So when you stare at a blank page, on the screen, or whether it's a notepad or whatever it is, and attempt to come up with a really clever way of capturing your reader's attention, well, you're going to get stuck a lot of times. And so if you write the opening paragraph after you've actually written your piece, you'll be much more familiar with the topic. You'll know where you're headed with the blog post or the article or the email, and you'll have a much easier time introducing readers to what they are about to experience. So you want your intro to be short and grab the reader's attention from the start, because if the reader is bored after the first few sentences, there is no way they'll make it through the rest of the piece. Whether it be a post or an email or whatever it is, you need to get them hooked at the beginning. So write it last. A few ways to open it, a few ideas. Start with something unexpected. Ask a question. Refer to a concern the reader may have. Tell a story. Or have the reader imagine a scenario. Imagine this. Number 4, move quickly and don't edit. Just write. So many writers have a tendency to edit and rework the writing as they go, because they get fearful of moving on until each sentence is perfect. So I want you to resist this temptation. Once you start writing, get your ideas down and out of your head as fast as you can. So avoid breaking your concentration, and be sure to eliminate anything that beeps, buzzes, bings, pops, your cell phone, your laptop, your kids, whatever. Put that stuff in another room, close your email, deactivate your notifications. Because studies show that it can take 23 to 25 minutes to get back on track and focused after being interrupted. And that's time you really can't afford to waste if you're trying to get something written and out the door in a timely manner. So now, I'm not thinking that, I'm not suggesting that you rush through your writing, that you're super sloppy, and end up creating something that's garbled or really unreadable. But what I am saying is that getting something done is way better than making it perfect. You've probably heard of Parkinson's Law, and it states that work expands to the time available for its completion. So the more time you allow yourself, the longer it will take to finish. So try setting a timer for 25, 30 minutes and see just how much you can get done in that period. Once the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break and then come back for another round. Seeing the minutes tick by may help keep you from procrastinating. So once you get your first draft done, you can go back and do your editing. So number 5 is read out loud. So reading your content inside your head is a lot different than reading something out loud. So reading something aloud forces you to be more attentive to your words and not skip over words that you might normally do if you're reading it just inside your head. So reading it aloud also helps you see, how do my words flow? How do the sentences feel? Are they too long or too cumbersome? Do I need to shorten them a little bit or make some changes? It also helps you find mistakes you might otherwise miss. So you can try reading it out loud to others too, which leads to my next point is, number 6, enlist a friend. So while the act of writing for you is probably a solo project, as it is for most people, that doesn't mean you need to go it alone. So find a writing partner for support. Now, this could be someone that you trust. It could, a friend, a colleague, a coworker, but someone that you can have read your material and give feedback. So don't just choose someone that will say nice things like your mom or your partner. Oh, honey, that's so nice. You did a good job. You don't want that. You want someone that will give you their honest opinion. So if they have editing skills, that's even better, but it's not necessary. The act of getting someone to help does a few things. It will help you build confidence as you can get direct feedback from someone. you can, learn what works and what doesn't, what lands with somebody, and maybe what areas of your writing you need to work on. You'll also get comfortable sharing your work. And you'll know that whatever you're sending out isn't a complete disaster. Number 7, use technology to help. So online tools like Grammarly.com and the Hemingway app, they can help you with verb tense, structure, all kinds of things. So, use those as guidance if grammar is not your strong point. Use spell check, but don't completely rely on it because words can be spelled correctly and not be the right words. If you're better at sort of speaking your thoughts, maybe try software like Otter.ai. That's something you can upload a video or a Zoom call, and it will machine translate it into script that you can then go back and clean up. So you'll need to edit it, but it's a way to start the words flowing. If you use Google Docs, you can turn on voice typing feature. And again, you can speak into it and it will write down what you say. It's not perfect, but it's a way to get the words out there. Number 8, don't include the kitchen sink. Don't feel pressured to include everything you know about a topic in one piece. Keep it focused. It's easier for you to convey your message or teach something if it involves around one central issue. So the reader also will have an easier time consuming it. And, if they can identify, this is something I want to learn about, they're much more likely to read it. So it's okay to leave your audience wanting more. Don't include everything. Number 9, release the need to be perfect. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're not trying to win a prize with our writing. We're talking about emails to subscribers, blog posts. This is the kind of stuff we're writing. We're communicating with our audience. Our language can be casual if it's appropriate. And no matter how many times you read it over, just accept the fact there are going to be mistakes. People who don't like what you write or the way you write, they'll get off your list or they'll stop reading your stuff. And that's okay. People are going to disagree with you too, and that is okay. Not everyone's going to like everything you put out there, but the ones who do, those are your people. Those are your fans, your tribe, your audience, and your potential customers. So it's okay. Expect that you'll get criticism and feedback and learn from it. Recently, I wrote an email where I was trying to talk about the music group The Beatles, and I wrote the word Beatles like the bugs. And I got a few responses, and it's like, okay, I messed up, but I just took it as like, check this stuff next time, and I moved on from it. So I hope that these ideas have given you some courage to tackle writing again, or if you've been putting it off, to sort of get started with it now. And giving you some new things to try to sort of get things flowing and get things going. Again, adopt the mindset that writing is an adventure, a conversation, a learning process. It's a chance to be inspired and to inspire others. I feel like that with all that's happening in the world right now, more than ever, people need to hear from you. They need your words. So get it out in the world. Or maybe they just need something to make them smile. So don't let your fears of writing become the obstacle to sharing your knowledge with the world. Remember, it's a dialogue, no matter the form of writing takes. And writing takes practice. And if you don't do it, you'll never get better at it. Later today, I want you to sit down with your calendar and map out some dates and times when you'll sit down to do some writing. You don't have to start with every day. Just pick a few days, but commit to them. Make them appointments in your calendar and commit to them. It doesn't matter what you write about at this time. Just get the ideas flowing. And get your mind and your body used to translating those thoughts in your head to the written word. You don't have to have it all figured out, because really, nobody does. And just start writing and see where your words take you. I hope you enjoy the journey. Thank you.